On May 21st, 2008, a post was made on the Chinese blogging site Tianya Club, entitled, "Wenchuan Earthquake, Can This Milk Powder Be Used for Disaster Relief?" The poster describes a disturbing personal experience he had with a popular brand of milk powder. Experiencing this is like experiencing a nightmare. It is very difficult to reveal the truth, and the proportion of the truth that can be revealed is extremely small. It goes like this. My whole family has the habit of eating milk powder. Since November 2007, I have purchased a batch of Sanlu brand milk powder from a supermarket. I found that the children's high-calcium formula milk powder had the following phenomena. My daughter ate it before going to bed at night, and the first urine discharge the next morning was sticky and light yellow, with small particles. It would become clear when she stopped eating and cloudy when she resumed. At first, I thought I bought a fake. So, I called the manufacturer's service hotline to report the situation. The manufacturer asked me to send 2 packages of unsealed milk powder to the laboratory for testing. On February 25th, 2008, I sent 1 package of children's formula milk powder and 1 package of middle-aged and elderly milk powder to Shijiazhuang Sanlu Group. After many days, I called the manufacturer to ask if they had received the milk powder I sent. Were there any problems? And to, please, fax me the test results. The manufacturer admitted that they had received them and confirmed that they were their product, but did not tell me if there were any quality problems, only saying that the regional agent would contact me. After a few days, the regional agent did contact me and said that someone would come to collect or exchange the products the next day. I disagreed. What I wanted first was the test results. If there are no problems, why did my child have the above situation after eating it? If there is a problem, what is it? Why won't you let me know the test results? If you can't let me know the test results, why did you ask me to send it for inspection? My child ate it and showed abnormalities, so I can return or exchange it? What about other people's children? The person who claimed to be the manufacturer's representative replied to me saying that the inspection report involves commercial secrets and cannot be given to me, but they can show it to me, though I haven't seen it yet. I had to complain to the Consumer Association. The Consumer Association contacted the supermarket on the afternoon of March 27th. The seller confirmed that it was the product they were selling, and said that they were also confused that the manufacturer would not issue the inspection results. At most, they could only refund the remaining milk powder we had eaten for the original price. I disagreed. I felt that this move was meaningless. Since the manufacturer asked me to send it for inspection, I no longer had all of the product I purchased. During the conversation, they also revealed that they still have a large number of such milk powders in their warehouses. Tianshu County's largest chain kindergarten, Yukai Kindergarten, also uses this milk powder. Hearing this, I wanted to know whether this batch of milk powder had any quality problems. I was told that the only way to find out is for an impartial third party, i.e. the Industrial and Commercial Department, to sample and send it for inspection through legal procedures. But the inspection fee must be paid by me first. The full inspection will cost tens of thousands. I hesitated and said that I would go and think about it. What is going on? After thinking about it, I realized it wasn't appropriate to send the milk powder to the manufacturer and let them say whether their own product had any problems. Truth begins with doubt and ends with faith. Even if I have to sell my house, I will find out the truth of the matter and resolve the doubts in my heart. On March 31st, I formally appealed to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau. For the sake of innocent children, for the elderly who were in their twilight years, and for more consumers, this batch of controversial milk powder should be sampled and sent to the authoritative department for inspection. No matter what the result is, it is a good thing for everyone. After receiving my application and asking for instructions from the superiors, the comrades of the Industrial and Commercial Bureau organized personnel to go to the supermarket. But it turned out they were a step late. The milk powder of the above batch, including other old packaging, that was full on the shelves 2 days ago, was gone. There was no milk powder in the warehouse. All of them had disappeared. I asked the supermarket manager and he said he didn't know. I didn't expect that I would not be able to get samples from the supermarket. Now the pile of milk powder on my hands has become the solitary evidence. I didn't dare to eat it, but it was a pity to throw it away, so I didn't dare to do it. Should I exchange it? I was afraid that they would give me something of similar quality. Alas, as a father and a son, what should I do? Now I can only seek help from the internet. The post only received 2 responses. Then, on the 31st, the original poster added a short update. These milk powders turned out to be fake. Please delete this post. But rather than deleting it, the post was locked by site admins, and so it would sit in silence. Until September.
So she purchased the Sanlu milk powder,
Sanlu.
a national
Sanlu's
brand.
New
Sanlu
Zealand
milk
partner
powder
says
that
that
cures
cures
from half of the parents.
Former general manager and chairwoman of Sanlu Group received the life sentence. She was the highest-ranking official charged in the food safety scandal.
Founded in 1956, Shijia Zhuang Sanlu Group was the largest Chinese-based company producing infant formula. Prior to the release of Sanlu's infant formula in 1983, the Chinese formula market was dominated by expensive foreign brands. So, Sanlu released their own formula at 1/3 the price of their competitors. And by 2007, Sanlu had been the #1 seller of infant milk powder in China for 15 years in a row. But that was all about to change. Sanlu had been receiving reports that babies who consumed Sanlu infant formula were developing kidney stones, and even kidney failure, since as early as December of 2007. Despite the severity of the issue, these reports wouldn't be discussed by Sanlu executives until May of 2008, when a meeting would finally be held to address the issue. Present at this meeting were company director Tian Wenhua, a number of deputy general managers, some board directors, and 2 consultants. It was decided that production would not stop. The focus became finding the source of the issue and eliminating it, all without informing the public. It was decided that the deputy managers would spearhead the investigation. Each would lead their own team. Wang Yuliang was to head the quality investigation team. Heng Shiqi was charged with strengthening supervision of milk sources. Liu Shengde was responsible for handling legal affairs, and 2 other unnamed deputies were placed in charge of communicating with the media and consumers. Deputy Manager Heng Shiqi would later attest that, at the time, the leaders of the factory all understood that there was a problem with the quality of the milk powder, but they did not know the specific reasons. We mainly considered the development's impact on the enterprise. So, even though we knew that there was a problem with the quality, we did not stop production or recall relevant products in time. In an attempt to uncover the source of the issue, 6 samples were sent out to be tested, all at different testing facilities in different cities. Despite this effort, each test came back normal. At the same time, multiple regional food safety agencies would conduct random inspections on Sanlu products, but these tests would also fail to discover anything out of the ordinary. In June, Sanlu's quality investigation team had a breakthrough. It was discovered that the non-milk protein nitrogen count was higher than normal, but they still had no idea what was causing this discrepancy. By July, cases of babies developing kidney stones were increasing. Reports were beginning to appear in the media, though they did not mention any specific company by name. In late July, Li Shihao, a Sanlu technical specialist, met Wang Yuliang in his office to discuss sending samples to Beijing for testing. While researching a possible cause, he had come across a scandal from 2007 where a number of cats and dogs in the United States died from kidney failure after consuming pet food adulterated with the chemical melamine. C3H6N6, better known by the name melamine, is a chemical derived from urea and is a common ingredient in the production of plastics. Unlike urea, which is a common additive to cattle feed and fertilizer to increase nitrogen count, melamine adds no real nutritional value, but would still show an increase of nitrogen content when tested, giving the illusion of a higher nutritional value. China is the largest producer of melamine, making it cheap and easy to purchase. In the early 2000s, it became a common practice to add it to animal feeds to increase nitrogen levels in meat. Prior to 2008, the effects of melamine on the human body were fairly understudied. But it was known that when melamine came into contact with cyanic acid, another common nitrogen-increasing chemical additive, the two would react to form melamine cyanate crystals. This would result in kidney stones, and in severe cases could lead to kidney failure and death. The combination of these two chemicals is what had led a number of cats and dogs to die in 2007 when melamine-adulterated wheat gluten that had been imported from China was used in the production of canned pet food in the United States. If this chemical were now to have found its way into the largest Chinese infant formula brand, then the whole Sanlu Group empire would be ruined. Li Xiaozhu convinced Wang Yuliang that it would be better to have the samples tested in Shijiazhuang at the Inspection and Quarantine Technology Center of Hebei. The following day, Li Xiaozhu and another technical specialist, Zhang Zhugu, submitted the product for inspection. Nowhere in their submission paperwork did they state that the products were manufactured by Sanlu. Instead, they claimed that they were counterfeit products they had found for sale on the market, and Sanlu wanted to test them in order to track down who had made them. They would receive their answer on July 26th. Melamine was present. Sanlu would receive the full report on August 1st, and that same day a meeting was held. Though the meeting began at 6 p.m., it wouldn't end until the following morning. They came to agree on 3 points. 1. The unsold products would be sealed. 2. A recall would be issued to stores. And 3. The presence of melamine was to remain a secret. The fewer people know, the better. Getting away with it is the best way to protect our group. On August 2nd, the board of directors would be informed of the situation. This included the New Zealand Fonterra company, which, since 2006, held a 43% stake in Sanlu. That same afternoon, Sanlu proposed the product recall to the Shijiazhuang municipal government, which opposed the action. In Shijiazhuang, Sanlu was not only the largest employer in the city, but also the largest tax revenue source, and there was the issue of the Beijing Olympics beginning in 2 days, which Sanlu was a major sponsor of. The whole world would be watching China. Production of milk powder halted on August 3rd in order to set up melamine detection equipment in the factory. The milk powder factory was the only Sanlu factory to add this measure. Production would resume on the 5th. Rather than being disposed of, the remaining contaminated raw liquid milk was sent to be used in different Sanlu factories. During this period, Sanlu upper management asked the foreign board of directors for permission to exchange the batches that were on the market and were found to have had high melamine content with previously sealed batches that had lower amounts of melamine. The board came back with the EU standard of 20 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. After performing some calculations, Sanlu decided that 10 milligrams per kilogram would be the Sanlu standard. For comparison, modern-day limits in a majority of countries on melamine in infant formula are 1 milligram per kilogram, which is the lowest amount of melamine a test can detect. On August 18th, Sanlu would issue a recall and begin their replacement plan. On September 5th, the Fonterra company would alert the New Zealand government of the issue, and on the 8th, New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark sent the information to the Chinese government. Fonterra would later claim that in meetings they had urged Sanlu to come forward, something Tian Wenhua would deny at her trial. While the cover-up was ongoing, middle and lower-level Sanlu employees had no idea what the substance they were working to remove truly was. It was always described to them as non-milk protein nitrogen, or Substance A. They would only learn what the substance was 3 days after the New Zealand warning, the same day that the Chinese public found out. By September of 2008, the urology department of the 1st Hospital of the People's Liberation Army in Ganshu knew they had a serious problem. Since June, 14 babies had been diagnosed with kidney stones. All of the babies had been consuming Sanlu infant formula. Dr. Li Wenhui, the chief physician of the urology department, decided that it was too much to all be a coincidence. So he sent a letter to Southern Weekend, asking them to send a reporter. On the 8th, the reporter arrived, and Dr. Li told him about the babies. The following day, the article was released, but it never mentioned the name of the milk formula. A separate report in the Oriental Morning Post on September 11th would change everything. Jian Guangshao's article said much the same as the one in Southern Weekend, but it had one major difference. It named Sanlu as the cause. The effects of Jian Guangshao's article were immediate. Understandably, people had many questions. The largest was, though Sanlu would eventually attempt to place blame on the dairy farmers, the real culprits were the dairy collection depots, which served as the go-between for farmers and dairy processors. At this point in time, the majority of dairy production in China was occurring on small, rural farms, where families would own a small number of cows in order to make extra money. The collection depots would purchase milk directly from the rural farmers, then sell it to the milk processing companies. Due to the ongoing world food price crisis, which saw grain prices increase over 100% due to the demand outpacing the growth in yields, the milk produced from these farms was often lacking in protein. As a result, there was not enough high-protein milk to keep up with factory demands. In addition to this low-protein milk, when milk production was too low to keep up with demand, milk would be diluted with water, which would also lower protein levels. So, in order to make up for this deficit, collection depots began to add protein powders to the milk. Though some of these additives increased the real protein content of the milk, many, such as melamine, did not. This problem was not at all limited to Sanlu, nor was it limited to infant formula products. Across 491 samples from 109 companies, 69 were shown to have heightened levels of melamine. The Southern Weekend article was quickly flooded with comments shaming them for not naming the company. Around the same time, the Tianya Club post was rediscovered and even unlocked. It too received a flurry of comments. The government quickly opened an investigation which would end in 21 arrests, 4 of which were Sanlu board members. Their trial took place not long after. It was not long before Sanlu began offering parents compensation. The amount varied depending on the severity of the child's illness, but in order to receive compensation, parents were required to waive their right to sue. By January, 90% of parents would accept some form of compensation. This high rate can be attributed to pressure from the Chinese government, as well as the fact that the vast majority of Sanlu's customer base were either rural farmers or migrant workers. In short, they had no money with which to fight against Sanlu. Furthermore, many lawyers were dissuaded by the government to take on cases related to melamine milk poisoning. In the end, no parents were successfully able to sue Sanlu. Despite promises of compensation, many would never receive the full amount, as Sanlu was allowed to file for bankruptcy during its trial. In addition, compensation was not provided for medical expenses that occurred prior to the exposure of the poisoning. When the state's trial against Sanlu finally reached the courts, the parents were not allowed to speak or even attend. Despite these challenges, some parents were desperate to fight. Xiaolin Hai was one such parent who refused the settlement. His son had developed kidney stones after drinking Sanlu formula. Though the government was initially paying for children's medical expenses, the program was only temporary. This was despite the fact that children who had severe kidney damage would require long-term treatment. So, instead of a lump sum, he and a number of others wanted continuous payments for the children's long-term care. On September 25th of 2008, he launched his first website,
毒奶
which would later be known as jesaibaobao.com. These sites served as hubs for other parents to communicate and organize. Together, they began a petition against the government's payment plan. But when they attempted to deliver the petition to the Chinese Supreme Court, they were blocked from entering the building. As a result of his activism and online actions, on November 13th of 2009, Xiao would be arrested. The following year, he would be given a 2.5-year sentence for disturbing the social order. Over the course of the investigation, around 60 people were detained. Only 21 would be charged with a crime, and everyone charged was convicted. The people charged with crimes can be divided into 3 categories: melamine mix sellers, milk depot owners and workers, and the Sanlu executives. The mix sellers and depot owners received the harshest punishments, while the Sanlu executives who participated in the cover-up received the lightest. For example, Zhang Yujin, a mix seller, and Gang Jingping, a depot owner, were both sentenced to death. A number of other mix sellers and depot owners received life. In comparison, the only comparable sentence of a Sanlu executive is that of Tian Wenhua, who also received life. But her life sentence did not stay for long, as she received 3 sentence reductions and is now presumed to be free. The government regulators who were complicit or played an active role in the cover-up were never investigated criminally, though a few were dismissed or allowed to resign from their positions. These differences in sentencing are where the controversy lies. All those who died were scapegoats. All those who died were scapegoats is a sentiment that has only grown over the years since the milk scandal trials, especially among academics. There is no proof that the melamine mix sellers and milk depots that used the mixes had any idea about the dangers that melamine posed to children. Melamine was not an illegal or controlled substance in China. There were no regulations or restrictions on melamine content in foods. Most people in China were completely unaware of the 2007 pet food scandal. The crimes of the mixers and depots become far smaller when compared to the Sanlu executives, who were completely aware of the dangers of melamine and chose to continue the tainted product's sale. Then, there were the government regulatory agencies who were aware of the problem and complicit in its cover-up. Both men who received death sentences are arguably arbitrary choices. Zhang Yujin was not the only one creating and selling mixes, just as Gang Jinping was not the only one adding mixes to his milk. To the Chinese government, it did not matter who paid with their life as long as someone did. The men at the bottom were a far easier choice in comparison to the party members, Sanlu executives, or the government officials. According to the official tally, around 300,000 children experienced some kind of kidney abnormalities, while 6 died. It is very likely that this number is far higher. These are the victims who never truly received justice.